Good morning! As you can see, it's much earlier in the daytime than it normally is when I give these videos. I just wanted to go ahead and send a little tip of the week out again, plus talk about Frolicon, since that's what I was at this weekend, and it's kind of why I look like hell. Not enough sleep, too much fun for, what do they say? Too much fun, so much fun you can shake a stick at it, and I can guarantee you plenty of sticks were shaken at Frolicon. Giggity. What I wanted to talk to you about was, when it comes to information in your stories, what not to put in there. I just want to do that again. And what I mean by that is, we covered a couple of things in detail at the panels at Frolicon, and one of those information things we covered was, well, from a panel called Write What You Don't Know. Because the typical advice we're saying to an author is always write what you know. I'll write what you know. Well, I don't really, for a very long time, didn't believe in the romance aspect. Not that I didn't think it didn't exist, I just didn't believe it for myself. And this is a different tangent, so I won't go too far into it, but I knew if I studied the romance novels that were popular, I would pick it up and eventually learn it and figure out what's different, what's necessary, what's got to go into the book, what doesn't, what not. But this is on a little more of a smaller scale that we're talking about. And the example that came up was somebody asked, and maybe they just know me, I don't know, but they've asked about pipe smoking and cigar smoking. And you guys know that I know both of those fairly well. I'm much more adverse, or much more well-versed in cigar smoking than I am pipe smoking. I know about the basic blends, but I also know, from having done it for a number of years now, what would go into a story that would give the character the kind of either feel or emotional intelligence you're trying to put forth in there. You cannot sit there and throw in every little thing about a detail, because otherwise, first of all, you slow the story down. Second of all, you annoy the reader. And third of all, you might even insult them, because maybe they know what the subject is and they know what you left in and out, which means they're going to take your book and chuck it across the room, or delete it off their Kindle in a metaphorical throw it against the wall thing. We actually didn't talk about this from this perspective either, but what I always cover in one of my BDSM classes, when it comes to writing, the first thing you need to understand is that your author or your reader base, if they pick up one of your books, they know what they're getting into. I can't think of who it was right now. Might have been Annabelle Joseph, who has a number of S&M novels out, and she doesn't do this, but I was talking to somebody about her, and I said, yeah, if you pick up an Annabelle Joseph novel, you're probably getting lots of spanking, among other things. And I say other things because you probably know what that is. YouTube just doesn't like it when I'm a little more profane than normal, so we got to keep it as clean as possible. But you know what those books are. Depending on which book of mine you pick up, you did that for a reason. You wanted that experience. So there's no reason for me, unless I'm trying to go for a new audience, at least in my take, to take the S&M aspect and explain the truth as to the trust issues going on to a newbie, unless my character's a newbie. And even then, there are better ways of doing it where I would probably... Matter of fact, I've got to do this anyway. I've got a book I have to rip apart. But the dominant does his thing, doesn't over-explain why, doesn't under-explain why, but we see from the submissive's perspective the trust issues. Every single time a particular scene gets ramped up and you play more, or you play heavier, or you play differently, you're going to be able to get into the scene of that character's head, the submissive in particular, because they're the one with all the vulnerability. And that's why your readers are reading. I don't know personally if a lot of readers are reading S&M for the ability to step into the dominant's shoes. I certainly don't. Except for borrowing from different books and whatnot for play, but otherwise still. But that's an example of things you need to keep in mind when you're crafting your novels, is you don't want to have an overload of information that's overly obvious. You need to be familiar enough with your topic to where you can write about it without anyone else giving you too much flack. Little minor details that slip up are okay. Cigar World. Thomas Roach actually asked me years ago about a particular cigar, and I said, this is what you're going to want to put in here for this character, after he'd given me a rundown of the character. And everything else is really irrelevant unless you start getting into the nitty-gritty and digging into, and then again, at this point, you're writing a piece of fact, no longer writing fiction, so what's the point? But yeah, so back to it, because Frolicon's over now, and I've got to get on the other side of the thing. But thanks for watching. If you see the Patreon link and you feel like donating, I could use even $1. It's much appreciated for your, well, patronage in the traditional sense of the word, as well as your continued watching me week after week after week, making ass of myself on these things during this time. So I will see you guys next week. As always, like and subscribe, share, tell your friends. Cheers.